Let's take a break. Coffee break tayo. Wala tayong cafecito.
Welcome to another coffee break where we're able to learn, discuss, and discover various topics. I'm glad you're able to join me on your coffee break. So grab yourself a hot cup of coffee, have a seat, and today's topic we'll be looking at how to make good decisions. All of us have to make decisions every day. So some decisions are pretty straightforward and simple, others are fairly complex. And simple decisions usually need a simple decision making process, but difficult decisions typically involve bigger issues like uncertainty. There's many facts that are not known. Complexity, right? It is so complex that you have to consider many interrelated factors, and also understand that there are high risk consequences. What is the impact of the decisions on an individual or in a group, because they can be significant. And also in looking at alternatives, each alternative has its own set of uncertainties and consequences. And whenever you have more than one person involved or more than one thing involved, there's always interpersonal issues that need to be considered, and it can be difficult to predict how other people will react to a decision or decisions that will be made. So with all of these difficulties in mind, the best way to make a complex decision is to use an effective process, a clear process that leads to consistent, high quality results, and then can improve the quality in almost everything that you do. And so I'll be outlining a process that will help improve the quality of your decisions. And it's going to be a very simple, systemic approach to decision making. It's a logical, systemic decision-making process that will help you address the critical elements that result in a good decision. By taking this organized approach, you're going to be less likely to miss important factors, as you can build on your approach to make your decisions better and better with experience and as time goes by. And this is going to be a very simple 6 steps to making effective decisions. So we'll dive right into it. And here are the steps in as much detail as I can provide in the coffee break, right? So step 1, you want to ensure that you create a constructive environment. Creating a constructive environment will allow for successful decision making. But in creating your constructive environment, right, in the space that you're going to be working in, but also not just physically, but laying the groundwork on paper to ensure that you have a process in hand to be able to make successful decision making. You want to first establish the objective, right? So define what you want to achieve. You want to agree on the process. So you want to know how the final decision will be made. Will it be made by an individual? Will it be made by a group? So you want to determine that. You also want to make sure that you involve the right people, the people who are or were part of the problem or issue, because you want to make sure that you're consulting all of the stakeholders and that they have a voice in what's being heard. So you want all opinions to be heard, and you want to encourage the participants to contribute to the discussion, to the debate, to the analysis, without fear, without rejection from the group at the end of the day. You also want to make sure that you're asking the right questions, right? You want to ask yourself whether this is really the true issue, because a lot of times we'll find that there's some underlying or some other issues associated with the issue that came about. You also want to ensure that you're using your tools creatively from the beginning, right? So using your tools creatively is ensuring that you're thinking from different perspectives. So you want, because sometimes you want to play devil's advocate when it comes to, ensuring that you're gathering the pertinent information and finding creative ways to gather that information. So that's step number one, right? Creating that constructive environment, having your plan laid out, and being ready. Step number two is generating good alternatives, right? So this step will definitely be critical in making an effective decision, because the more good options you consider, the more comprehensive your final decision will be. So when you generate alternatives, you're forcing yourself to really dig deep, and look at the problem from different angles, different perspectives, and use the mindset that there must be other solutions rather than just expelling a student, rather than just firing a person, right? So you're more likely to make the best decision if you're thinking about alternatives when it comes to solutions. So if you don't have a reasonable alternative, then there's really not much of a decision to be made, right? Because it's a given that you're going to do what you're going to do. So in step number, and there's definitely other things that you need to consider in generating good alternatives, and of course, and that's the process to generating those ideas, considering the different perspectives, right? The process that it takes to be able to draw that information and gather that information, and then to organize those ideas, and then to start formulating the plan. So step number three, once you're ready to and have gathered and organized those ideas, that you're exploring the alternatives. When you're satisfied that you have good selection of realistic alternatives, then you'll need to evaluate the feasibility, right, of those alternatives, the risks, the implications of each choice that you're making, either as an individual or as a group. And in thinking about the risk in decision making, there's usually some degree of uncertainty when which inevitably leads to risk. So by evaluating risk involved with various options, you can determine whether the risk is going to be manageable, right? So you might want to be able to use a risk analysis, and this will help you look at risks objectively, because it uses again, a structured approach for assessing threats, for evaluating the probability of something happening, and what if or will there be a cost associated to manage that, right? Also think about the implications, right? And it's looking at your options by considering the potential consequences of each of those risks. And then of course you're looking for validation. And in looking for validation, you want to determine if your resources are adequate, if the solution matches your objective, and if the decision is likely to work in the long term. Right. So I know it's a lot to consider in step number three, because there are some underlying processes that you need to make sure that are happening in order for you to consider alternatives to a solution that you're trying to come up with, right, in making a decision. So step number four is choosing the best alternative. After you've evaluated those alternatives, now you have to choose between them. So the choice may be obvious, but if it's not, then you want to engage in other processes in order to make sure that you make the best decision possible, right? So, I mean, I hate to throw process on top of process, but in choosing the best alternative, just consider the risks, consider the alternatives, the consequences, all the stuff that I mentioned before, and make the best choice that fits the situation, and it has the least implications for the individual, and the best implications for the group and the whole and the organization. Step 5 would be to check your decision. So with all of the effort and the hard work that went into evaluating those alternatives and deciding the best way to move forward, it's easy to forget to check your decisions, right? And this is where you look at the decision you're about to make dispassionately, right? So don't look at it from an emotional point of view, to make sure that your process has been thorough, to ensure that any errors that might have come into the decision-making process, right? Emotions got in the way, conflict of interest, etc. So you want to make sure that you don't have any catastrophic consequences to any of the decisions that you're going to be making. So check your decision, right? Evaluate the decision and just get straight on what it is that you've decided to do and what the implications are. And step number 6, communicate your decision and move to action. And once you've made your decision, it's important to explain it to those affected by it and involved in implementing it, right? So talk about why you chose the alternative you did. The more information you provide about the risks and projected benefits, the more likely people are going to support your decision or the group's decision. And with respect to the implementation of your decision, make sure that you are very clear in how you move forward with when you've made the decision. Are there any timelines, deadlines associated with it, or if that's the end all and no opportunity to move forward? And that's pretty much it. And of course, I'm making it sound as if it was simple. At the end of the day, it is a very simple process. It could be only complicated as much as your issue or problem is complex, right? So again, use a 6-step systemic approach to your decision-making process. And for the most part, we're talking about programmatic, but this can be interpreted to specific interpersonal issue-based things. So again, it is making sure that you are creating a constructive environment, generating good alternatives, exploring those alternatives, choosing the best alternative, checking your decision, and then communicating your decision and take action. And that's it for decision-making process and helping you make better decisions. So make sure that you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, and share this video so get back to work with whatever you were doing, and see you at our next coffee break. Should you want a workshop on this topic, feel free to get at me. Lates.